Ladies and gentlemen, there's one person you spend every second of your life with, one person who's always in the room, always watching, always feeling you. But here's the twist. Most people spend more time trying to understand others than they do trying to understand themselves. They read people, analyze them, scroll through highlight reels of strangers' lives, but never sit with the quiet question, who am I when no one's watching? Your character is not your name. It's not your achievements, your job title, your likes on social media, or even the mistakes you've made. Your character is the core of you, the silent voice inside that guides your choices, your reactions, your patterns, and your principles. Now let me ask you something. Would you call someone your best friend if you didn't know how they think, what they believe in, what they fear, what brings them peace, or what breaks their heart? No, right? Then how can we live our entire lives without getting to know ourselves like that? Getting to know your character like your best friend means looking inward with radical honesty, not judgment. It means asking hard questions. Why did I react that way? What am I really running from? What does my silence in certain moments say about my values? Am I living in alignment or in avoidance? Knowing your character isn't about being perfect. It's about being authentic. It's about knowing that you're loyal even when no one claps for you. It's about knowing that you forgive not because you're weak, but because you refuse to carry poison in your soul. It's about understanding your darkness without shame and knowing your light without arrogance. Your best friend knows your history. He knows what you've overcome, what you've endured in silence, the things that shaped you when no one else was paying attention. So when you become your own best friend, you offer that same grace to yourself. You stop being surprised by your flaws, and instead you meet them with curiosity. You stop trying to hide your past and start understanding how it built your strength. You stop chasing applause and start listening to your inner applause. That's the beauty of character. It's not about what people see. It's about who you are when the doors close, when the lights are off, when nobody's there to perform for. Now, here's the truth that sets people free. Your life will never rise above the level of your character. Success without character is a facade. Love without character is manipulation. And peace without character, that's just pretending. The world teaches us how to present, how to persuade, how to perform. But nobody teaches us how to sit down with ourselves and say, I want to know you. I want to understand your wounds, your wonders, your wishes. I want to befriend the one person who never leaves me. Me. Do that, and you will never walk alone again. Do that, and you'll stop needing permission to feel enough. Do that, and your confidence will come from a real place, not borrowed praise. And let me tell you, when you know your character, really know it, you become unshakable, because the storms will come, the world will test you, you'll be misunderstood, betrayed, undervalued. But when you know who you are, you don't crumble, you stand. You don't just survive, you lead. And that's the power of becoming your own best friend. So today, make a promise not to impress, not to prove, but to explore. Explore your values, your triggers, your patterns, your principles, Know your character like you'd want someone to know you in the deepest friendship, fully, kindly, truly. Because once you know who you are, no one can tell you who you're not. You spend every single moment of your life with yourself. From the moment you open your eyes in the morning to the quiet moments before sleep, through your triumphs and heartbreaks, through every smile you show and every tear you hide. It is you, only you, who witnesses it all. And yet, isn't it strange how we can go through years, even decades, without really knowing who we are beneath the surface? We know what we like to wear. We know our favorite food, our music preferences, the kind of movies that make us cry. But do we know what we believe in when no one else agrees? Do we know what triggers our anger, not just on the surface, but deep down? Do we understand why we repeat the same mistakes or why we run from certain conversations? Most people don't ask these questions, not because they don't care, but because it's easier to stay distracted. It's easier to scroll, to keep busy, to perform. Because facing yourself without filters, without applause, and without pretense can be uncomfortable. It can feel like standing in front of a mirror with all the lights turned on, no shadows to hide in. But here's the truth. If you want real peace, not the kind that looks good in pictures, but the kind that lets you sleep at night, the kind that calms your soul, even when life feels like a storm, then you have to become self-awareness. Because self-awareness is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is the foundation of everything real, everything deep, and everything lasting. When you become self-aware, you stop reacting out of habit and start responding from wisdom. You stop asking, why is life like this? And start asking, why am I showing up like this in my life? And that shift, that one shift, is what begins the process of transformation. Self-awareness is not about labeling yourself. It's not saying, I'm an overthinker, or I'm just not confident, and leaving it at that. It's about exploring those truths, not just accepting them at face value. It's asking, why do I overthink? What am I afraid of? What is this lack of confidence protecting me from? Because behind every pattern is a story. And behind every story is a truth you haven't faced yet. Maybe your silence in hard conversations isn't because you're shy. It's because somewhere in your life, your voice was shut down. Maybe your people-pleasing isn't kindness. It's fear of rejection dressed up as being nice. Maybe your anger isn't rage. It's pain that's been ignored for too long. See, when you become self-aware, you don't just see your behaviors. You begin to understand their roots. You begin to give language to your wounds and purpose to your patterns. And that's where peace begins. Because peace is not the absence of noise. Peace is the presence of understanding. When you understand yourself, you stop being at war with yourself. You stop second-guessing your intuition. You stop apologizing for your truth. You stop pretending to be who others want you to be. And you start showing up as who you are always meant to be. Self-awareness teaches you boundaries. It helps you identify what energizes you and what drains you. It teaches you to say no, not out of guilt, but out of love. Love for your time, love for your energy, love for your truth. It also makes you more compassionate. When you understand your own struggles, you stop judging other people for theirs. You don't react as quickly. You give grace because you know how much you need it too. And most importantly, self-awareness gives you power. Not the loud kind that demands attention, but the quiet kind that knows who it is. It's the power that walks into a room and doesn't need to impress. It's the power that makes decisions based on values, not insecurities. It's the power that can walk away from chaos because it recognizes what peace is worth. Getting to know yourself is not a one-time thing. It's not a weekend retreat or a journal entry. It's a lifelong relationship, a practice, a commitment to sit with yourself regularly, not just when you're broken, but also when you're growing. To ask, who am I becoming? Does this still align with my truth? Am I living from a place of awareness or autopilot? And here's the most beautiful part. The more self-aware you become, the more aligned your outer life becomes with your inner values. Your choices change, your relationships shift, your confidence grows. Not because life gets easier, but because you know yourself better. You trust yourself more. And that trust, that's your peace. That's your anchor. That's your home. Because no matter where life takes you, the most important place you'll ever live is inside yourself. We live in a world obsessed with the visible. We polish our image carefully, curate our words, present our lives like masterpieces on a gallery wall. But there's something the world rarely teaches us, that true character is revealed not in public, but in private. Not when eyes are on you, but when no one's looking. That's where it lives. That's where it breathes. That's where it speaks the loudest. Character doesn't need a stage. It doesn't ask for applause. It doesn't dress up for the camera or change tone for approval. It simply is your true self. In the raw, in the quiet, in the moments where you have nothing to prove and no one to impress. The truth is, the person you are when no one's watching, that's the most honest version of you. Not the version you show at work, not the one you show your friends, not even the version you offer on your best day. It's who you are when the lights are off, when the applause has stopped, when you're faced with a choice and no one will ever know the answer except you. It's in those moments that your values either show up or stay silent. Do you help the stranger when no one's recording it? Do you tell the truth even when a lie would be easier? Do you honor your commitments when there's no consequence for breaking them? That's character. Quiet, consistent, undeniable. We often confuse reputation with character. But reputation is how the world sees you. Character is how you see yourself. Reputation can be manipulated, built, and marketed. But character, that's built in the unseen places. It's built in the small decisions, the ones that don't go viral, the ones that never get posted, the ones you never speak about out loud, but that shape your soul from the inside out. Your character is your moral fingerprint. And what's powerful is this. You don't need an audience to define it. You define it daily through the choices you make when no one is clapping. And that's what makes it sacred. There's a kind of integrity that doesn't shout. It whispers. It says, I did the right thing, and I don't need to be praised for it. I was kind, even when it wasn't convenient. I kept a promise I made to myself, even when it would have been easier to give up. That kind of living, that's what builds peace. That's what creates a sense of trust inside your own soul. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself, with the knowledge of what you did and what you didn't do. And when your private actions match your public image, when you're not just looking good, but actually doing good, something beautiful happens inside you. You become whole. You become free. You stop performing and start living. The most powerful people are not those with the biggest platform. They're the ones who are consistent, regardless of the spotlight, who show up the same for the janitor as they do for the CEO, who speak kindly about people who aren't in the room, who return the shopping cart when nobody's watching, who apologize when they're wrong, and don't wait to be caught to admit it. These things may seem small, but they are not small. They are everything. Because character is not built in big declarations. It is built in the daily discipline of integrity. And integrity is doing the right thing, not because someone will reward you, but because you are someone who chooses what's right. In a world that rewards appearance, character is often overlooked. But it is your quiet strength. It's the reason you can stand tall when everything else around you feels shaky. It's the foundation you walk on when your confidence gets shaken. It's the inner compass that guides you when there's no map, when the choices are hard, and when you're the only one who will ever know what decision you made. So many people build their lives chasing approval, but approval fades, fame fades, attention fades. What remains is who you were when no one else could see. That's what defines legacy. Not what people thought you were, but what you actually lived. And here's the remarkable thing. When you live with true character, you don't need to prove yourself. People may not see every action, but they will feel your energy. They'll feel your truth. They'll sense your strength. Because real integrity has a presence. It doesn't shout, but it speaks through your consistency. So don't underestimate the power of the unseen. Don't dismiss the value of what happens when it's just you and your conscience. That is your sacred space. That's where your truth lives. That's where your character is revealed, not through your words, but through your choices. Because who you are in silence will always echo louder than who you pretend to be in the spotlight. We've been taught how to judge ourselves before we've learned how to understand ourselves. From a young age, we're handed standards, what to look like, how to behave, what success should mean, and slowly, quietly, we start building walls between who we are and who we think we should be. But real healing, real strength, and real growth don't happen in judgment. They begin in compassion. Knowing yourself isn't about perfecting yourself. It's about being present with yourself, like you would with someone you love. Think about your best friend. You don't love her because she's flawless. You love her because she's honest, because she tries, because even in her struggles, she shows up. That's the same energy you need to bring to your relationship with yourself. You see, your flaws aren't failures. They're entry points. They're not signs of weakness. They are doors that, when opened with curiosity instead of shame, reveal the deepest truths about your journey. Maybe your impatience comes from years of feeling overlooked. Maybe your fear of rejection comes from a time when love was conditional. Maybe your anger is really grief in disguise. When you stop judging your flaws and start exploring them, you don't just uncover your pain, you discover your story. And once you know your story, you begin to reclaim your power. Compassion says, I see you. I understand why you are the way you are. Judgment says, you're not enough. You should be better by now. And the truth is, you're not going to grow by beating yourself up. You grow when you feel safe enough to change. And compassion creates that safety. If you've made mistakes, and we all have, remember this. Your mistakes are not the whole of you. They are chapters, not the ending. What matters more than the error is how you responded, what you learned, what you chose to become after the fall. The character is shaped by your wounds, yes, but it is not defined by the pain. It is defined by how you heal, by how you rise after falling, by the forgiveness you extend to others and to yourself, by the grace you choose to offer when your inner voice would rather be harsh. There's a voice in your head, and too often that voice is not your own. It's the echoes of old criticism, past betrayal, societal pressure, but you have the power to change that narrative. You can choose to speak to yourself like someone you love. With truth, yes, but also with tenderness. Compassion is not weakness, it's courage. It's standing in front of the mirror and saying, I know you're not perfect, but I still choose to walk with you. I still choose to root for you. That level of gentleness transforms everything. It changes how you face your fears, because instead of judging your anxiety, you begin to ask what it's trying to protect you from. It changes how you respond to failure, because instead of hiding in shame, you look for the lesson. And it changes how you show up in relationships, because when you stop being so hard on yourself, you stop expecting perfection from others too. Self-compassion also gives you space to pause, to slow down long enough to say, this isn't working for me anymore, without guilt. It lets you change directions, admit when you're wrong, and start again. It lets you let go of the pressure to always have it together and simply be human. You don't need to earn your own kindness. You don't need to prove you're worthy of love to give yourself some. The fact that you are alive, that you are trying, that you are learning, that is enough. That is worthy. You deserve to look at yourself not with harsh eyes, but with kind ones. You deserve to be proud of how far you've come, even if it's not perfect. You deserve to speak to your soul with love, not shame. Think about how different your life could feel if every time you messed up, you offered compassion instead of criticism. What if you said, that wasn't my best moment, but I'm still growing. I'll try again tomorrow. That kind of inner dialogue doesn't just change your mindset, it changes your life. Because the way you speak to yourself becomes the atmosphere you live in. And no one thrives in an environment of constant judgment. But in the presence of compassion, everything has the chance to bloom. So don't fear your flaws, explore them. They are not evidence of failure. They are proof that you're human. They are opportunities to deepen your understanding of who you are, to rewrite old narratives, to give yourself the same love you've so freely given others. And when you finally learn to know yourself with compassion, not just on the good days, but in the messy, uncomfortable, tender ones too, that's when peace enters. That's when transformation begins. That's when you stop fighting with yourself. And there is nothing more powerful than a person who knows themselves and still chooses to love themselves fully and without apology. Life is not always gentle. It won't always arrive with soft winds and sunny skies. There will be days when it shakes your plans, disrupts your peace, and challenges everything you thought you knew. Storms will come, some expected, many not. They'll test your patience, your values, your boundaries, your spirit. And in those moments, everything external can fail you. Money may not solve it. Popularity may not protect you. People may not show up like you thought they would. But there's one thing that, if built strong, will hold you through it all: your character. Character is not about pretending to be strong. It's about being rooted in something real, your truth, your principles, your values, so that when life tries to shake you, you don't break. You bend, maybe. You cry. You fall to your knees, but you don't lose who you are, because you know what you stand for. And when you know that, truly know that, you can face anything. We often prepare for the good, dreams coming true, plans unfolding, recognition arriving, but how often do we prepare for the moments that strip us of comfort, of certainty, of control? That's when character rises. Not in the calm, but in the chaos. Not in the applause, but in the silence. When you lose something you thought you couldn't live without, your health, your relationship, your dream, and you still wake up the next morning choosing integrity, choosing grace, choosing hope. That's character. That's strength. And no, it's not always glamorous. It won't always feel powerful in the moment. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's you sitting alone, saying to yourself, I'm not going to let this hard moment turn me into someone I'm not. That decision right there, that's your anchor. That's your survival. When life is good, people see your smile. But when life is hard, they see your character. And more importantly, you see it. You see whether your foundation was built on shallow validation or on inner conviction. You see whether you stand for your values or only when they're convenient. And if you've taken the time to know yourself, to build your inner strength, you discover that the storm doesn't define you. It reveals you. It reveals the depth of your resilience. It reveals how deeply your roots run. It reveals the truth of who you are when there's no one left to impress, when all distractions are stripped away. You won't always be in control of what happens to you, but you are always in control of how you respond. And your response, more than anything else, is a mirror of your character. Do you react with anger, or do you pause with wisdom? Do you act out of fear, or do you move from integrity? Do you give up, or do you get still and remember who you are? Character doesn't promise an easy life, but it does promise a steady one. It doesn't take away the storm, but it keeps your heart anchored while the wind rages around you. And some days that's what saves you, not a solution, but the strength to stay standing. There will be moments when life tempts you to become someone else, to compromise your values, to chase approval instead of purpose, to betray your truth just to feel accepted. But character says no. Character says, I'd rather lose 100 things than lose myself. And that kind of clarity, that kind of strength, that's peace. Not because the world is peaceful, but because you are. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are not loud. They're not flashy. They don't need to broadcast their worth. They are quiet forces. Not because they don't feel the storm, but because they know their character will carry them through it. And that's what you build your life on, not trends, not attention, not applause, but on who you become in the hard moments, on how you treat people when you're tired, on how you show up when no one is watching, on the values you won't compromise no matter how much pressure you're under. Storms will come, people will change, plans will fall apart, but your character, That's what remains. That's what you carry with you into every season, every loss, every new beginning. It's your compass, your core, your grounding. So when everything feels uncertain, when life doesn't go as planned, when the ground beneath you seems to shift, go back to that. Go back to the part of you that is built on truth, that remembers your worth, that doesn't shake just because the world around you does. Because when your character is strong, you don't need everything to go right. You just need to remain you. And that, more than anything, is your true power. So here's what it all comes down to. In a world that constantly pulls your attention outward, toward image, performance, perfection, I invite you to return inward, to meet the one person who holds the key to your peace, your confidence, your future. You. Not the version you post, not the version you pretend to be, but the version of you who sits in silence, who knows the weight of your past and the hope of your future, who has been bruised but is not broken, who has flaws but also a fire, who has been through storms and is still standing. Know your character like your best friend. Sit with it, listen to it, understand where it's been and where it longs to go. Because once you do, once you stop performing and start connecting, once you stop judging and start exploring, everything changes. Your decisions align, your peace deepens, your confidence becomes unshakable, and life, with all its chaos and beauty, becomes a journey of truth instead of a performance of perfection. Get to know the quiet parts of yourself. Befriend the parts you've tried to hide. And most of all, honor who you are becoming, because the most powerful relationship you will ever have is the one you build with your own soul. And when that relationship is rooted in honesty, compassion, and character, there is nothing, truly nothing, that can shake you.